Well, I first heard the idea even before Seth had written the book. It was just, he was thinking about writing the book. And when I just heard the title, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, it just, all of a sudden, like my mind kind of started, it took me back to kind of in the era of films that I grew up in, where like 60s, early 70s, where it was like a weird mashup of movie. Like I remember things like Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, and you get these weird kind of mix-ups of horror films, and it just sounded to me like a kind of a movie that I wanted to see. It just reminded me of a movie of that era, and it had that kind of crazy energy to it, and weird juxtapositions of things, and so I knew, again, even before reading the book, that it was a great idea. Well, it basically takes the story of Lincoln, which Seth really kind of went through the history of the life of Lincoln, and linked it up to sort of vampire mythology, the idea that, his mother was killed by a vampire, and how that shaped the rest of his life. And again, the interesting thing about it is that it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. I mean, the events and the idea of him becoming a vampire hunter, and like all the deaths that he had in his family and people close to him, it makes a lot of sense, and it's actually more believable than the premise makes it. So that's what was interesting, because we never wanted to make, like, it's not like making fun of anything or sort of, it's to treat it seriously and treat it like a human story and a real story, and like this is the real story. We talked about the idea, and the fact is that it very much sort of mirrors kind of the classic comic book superhero mythology. I mean, in some cases he's not dissimilar from Batman in the sense that he's got a dual, he's got a day job as president and a night job, vampire hunter. And the kind of duality of those kind of characters, and that again is something that was important to kind of keep the human quality of him, but then kind of explore the more kind of mythological or sort of superhero nature of how we perceive Lincoln, and to kind of mix those two together, and that's what we have here. Well, I see Timur's films, and also the fact that he's Russian, that he's not American. It's a certain perspective, a certain kind of, which is interesting because, America is a country based on immigration, and so I thought it was quite interesting to see this story told by somebody from another country. I thought just give it a kind of perspective that actually is a way to kind of explore American history from a slightly other perspective, and also with the vampire thing, which he's also dealt with. He just was an interest, and as a great filmmaker too, it's just all of those things I thought was a great combination, for this film. Well, Ben's great because he brings the humanity to Lincoln, and he brings a certain kind of mischievous quality, but real quality to it. And again, the thing that was always important with this, with all the action, all of the stuff, and the surreal nature of it, that Lincoln, as a character, was a human being. Again, there's a lot of wild action, kind of superhero things, but we were always very careful about just making sure that Lincoln's humanity and the person was there, and that's what Ben was very aware of, and was very good at trying to bring that sort of element, and not let it get lost in all of the action, and be right there as the heart of the movie. Well, vampires to me have been my friends since I was a child. I mean, I grew up watching vampire movies, monster movies, vampire movies, and I know people say, oh, vampires are trendy, but they've been trendy for me since I was about 3 years old. So they've never gone out of fashion for me, and that's a great thing about them. You can tell a vampire story hundreds of different ways. I mean, it's been around since the beginning of cinema, really. You go back to looking at early like Nosferatu things. it's been around forever, and it will be around forever because it's a powerful thing, and you can tell it different each time.